Welcome to Michael Pott's F1, everything Formula One, but from a photographer's point of view. Race 16, the Japanese Grand Prix. In this video, I'd like to look back over the Japanese Grand Prix, looking at 5 interesting points from the race weekend, and along the way, showing you some of my favourite photographs. This was my first Japanese Grand Prix. It was actually my first trip to Japan, so my point number 1 is the Japanese Grand Prix. Recent races here have been exceptionally wet, and I was expecting another rain-affected race. Throughout the year, we've only had 2 race weekends that haven't been affected in some way by rain, those of Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. When the heavens opened on Wednesday and we had an absolutely massive storm in Suzuka, I was fearing the worst. However, by race day, it was gorgeous, and this racetrack is magnificent in sunshine. The weather throughout was perfect. We also had very good food in the paddock. I was introduced to something called takoyaki for the first time. This is chopped octopus in a batter ball, deep fried, and is absolutely delicious. I was really impressed with the track. While being an exceptionally high speed track, there are lots of corners, but these are beautifully flowing corners that make a wonderful spectacle. And it produces some great races. I did a tour of the track with some of the fans, and this was a great opportunity to explore a racetrack that I'd never been to. During that, I saw 4-time world champion and former Aston Martin driver Sebastian Vettel setting up a series of insect hotels in Turn 2. These structures are designed by a local artist with the intention of encouraging insect life. Each of the teams was given a separate house, and it was great to see the whole Formula One paddock supporting this initiative. I believe he's going to be taking this to other tracks around the circuit. But I think the best thing about the Japanese Grand Prix were the fans. Seeing people dress up as their favourite drivers, supporting their favourite teams. Here are some of my favourites. And the local fans were given something extra to celebrate because Yuki Tsunoda has signed for AlphaTauri for 2024. And this is point 2. AlphaTauri confirms their 2024 driver lineup. The team have signed both Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo for next year. Although Yuki's been very unlucky since the summer break, he has driven incredibly well over the course of the year and thoroughly deserves his position in the team. Daniel Ricciardo was also very unlucky to be injured in Zandvoort, so he hasn't had a chance to really show what he can do. But Red Bull seem to have seen enough in him to back him for next year. There are going to be a lot of changes at AlphaTauri. Firstly, the team is moving from Italy to being based in Milton Keynes. This will allow them to be closer to sister team Red Bull. My understanding is that next year's car is going to be closer aligned to the RB19, which will mean it's a serious contender for points next year. There's going to be new leadership and a new name. Potentially, they'll be called Hugo Boss Bulls Racing, but that hasn't been confirmed yet. This has the potential of being a great team for both drivers to be involved in, and a team which potentially should allow both of them to score a bunch of points. It does mean that Logan Sargent misses out, which is very sad because he's come in and done an outstanding job this year. He's got the team's best position finish, and he's looked so calm and so mature behind the wheel that he looks like a natural Formula One driver. This means that all eyes are now on Williams, where there is one seat that isn't confirmed for 2023, that being Logan Sargent's. He struggled again this weekend. He is going to face stiff competition from a number of different drivers. For example, Felipe Dragovic from Aston Martin, but also Liam Lawson. Now, Red Bull might decide to keep Liam solely as a reserve driver, because I'm not sure they'd want to lose another driver to Williams. There's also Mick Schumacher that Mercedes are keen to place somewhere. He arrived at the track with his girlfriend Leila and even took her for a lap of the circuit in a Mercedes sports car as part of Pirelli's hot laps. While the two did look very happy together, that was not necessarily the case with all members of the Mercedes team. Point 3. Mercedes squabbles. This was yet another race where the two Mercedes drivers tangled on track, and resulted in George asking the team over the radio if they were fighting each other or racing against the others. Off track, the two seem to be getting on really well, but they are finding themselves on the same bit of tarmac quite frequently, and things have been getting a bit hairy. George is driving brilliantly since the summer break, and while the team has shifted their focus to the 2024 car, we are still expecting some upgrades to come around Austin. Currently, they're second in the Constructors, and Lewis does have a chance to finish ahead of Checo and claim second place in the Drivers' Championship, but on current form, the team is being overshadowed by McLaren and Ferrari. You feel that the team management is going to need to step in at some point, because the inter-team battle is starting to hurt the team, and this is only going to get much worse if the team are very competitive next year. Lewis did take some time out on Thursday to race radio control cars with Esteban Ocon. It looked like the two of them had a brilliant time battling each other on a makeshift course. Obviously, they took it very seriously, with the cars coming together on several occasions. Lewis was again on top form fashion-wise, as you would expect. On Thursday, he was wearing this pretty cool cardigan from Japanese designer Sakia, along with Prada sunglasses and System sneakers. On Friday, he was wearing this denim suit by Korean designer/photographer Kushikok. Saturday's was another creation by a Korean designer called Jun Jae. And on Sunday, he was wearing a matching vest-trouser combination by Unfold. But despite being second in the championship, Mercedes are currently not best of the rest. That honour goes to McLaren. And point 4, McLaren are bringing the fight to Red Bull. The last two races saw Ferrari taking aim at the Red Bulls, but this week that honour fell to McLaren. Both cars had the new upgrade package, and Oscar Piastri has been rewarded with a new long-term contract. He repaid the team magnificently with a well-earned third place. He was second fastest in qualifying, and this is at a track that he's never raced at before. From first practice, he was on it, but it was yet another weekend that he showed off what an exceptional talent he's going to be in Formula 1. Lando Norris got his 4th second place of the year. The McLarens were showing off how well the development cycle has gone this year. They've come from nowhere at the start of the season to being serious contenders now. Here's a shot of Lando Norris going under the bridge. I've shot this with a Nikon D850 using a 24-70mm lens. Focal length is 24, my shutter speed is set to 1/13, and f/22 ISO 64. What I'm trying to do here is get the movement of the car as it comes underneath the bridge, going from light to dark. The bridge makes a very interesting shape and composes the car beautifully. There are so many beautiful photographic spots around this track. The next is this reflection shot of Oscar Piastri as he comes down the pit lane to join the grid. The tunnel linking the paddock to the pits has a very reflective surface, so here I managed to lie down and get a shot of the cars as they drove past. There's also a massive Ferris wheel just outside the final corner. As the cars come into the pits, you can get this really cool shot looking up at the car and the Ferris wheel in the background. The last shot I want to show you from McLaren is this one of Oscar Piastri coming into 130R. This is one of the most famous corners in Formula 1, and it's such a privilege that we get to stand here watching the cars powering through this magnificent corner right on the edge. It's enough to send tingles down your spine, but not as many tingles as point 5, Max Verstappen being back to winning ways. Verstappen delivered a real statement victory here. You could see this from the start of the weekend. He was topping sessions and really laying down a marker to everyone else. And it was a marker that no one else could get anywhere near. He got his 13th win of the season, another full house of fastest lap, pole position and race win, and it was as emphatic pushback to all the suggestions that Red Bull had been doing something dodgy with their front wings as you could possibly imagine. Max won the race by nearly 20 seconds, and he looked completely comfortable throughout. Here's a shot of Max coming under the bridge just after the Degners, and it's from a slightly different position from the McLaren shot that I showed you earlier. Here is photographing the car almost head on. And what I've done here is I've exposed the photograph to the shadow underneath the bridge. That whites out everything around it. It overexposes the foreground and the background. And it gives you this really cool image of a racing car with a whited out background. While Max dominated the weekend, on the other side of the garage, Sergio Perez struggled again, eventually retiring the car, only to unretire the car so he could serve a penalty so he wouldn't be penalised in Qatar. But it's definitely going to be one for the Mexican to forget. It was a huge weekend for Red Bull as they clinched the Constructors' Championship with 6 races to go. It was wonderful for them to do it at Honda's home track in front of the Japanese crowd, and it's a huge testament to just how dominant this team has been this year. Max can clinch the Drivers' Championship at the next race in Qatar, possibly even during the sprint race, which I think is going to be a little bit weird. Max has been on the record saying he doesn't like sprint races, and it would feel a little bit anticlimactic. However, I do think he's going to be grateful for another championship, regardless of how he gets it. Thank you so much for joining me for this look back at the Japanese Grand Prix. I really do hope you've enjoyed it. It was a fantastic experience coming to Japan for the first time, and I'm already looking forward to next year's race. Next off, we go to Qatar, where Max Verstappen can be crowned world champion during a sprint race. So join me for that and everything else Formula One. Until the next one, goodbye.